Hello everyone. I've just been writing in Old Spanish, and it came to mind a very important thing, and that is when you treat somebody poorly and you don't allow them to understand the language or the context of the language that they're in, then in kindness, words can be used to speak from the heart and not from written forms. I don't know. I've just What's nice about the Romance languages and their Latin derivatives is that a lot of times the translations are not so right in English. And that's true of other languages as well. Not that my words translated using whatever would mean different things, but you'll never know what they mean now. Isn't that awful? How does that make you feel? To make somebody feel like an outsider? It's horrible. I guess that's why, in my time, well, that's why I always, well, made an effort to make people feel welcome, even when they weren't. Even though I did welcome everyone. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting though. I dare somebody come up with an exact translation for what I meant when I wrote that stuff in Spanish. Or in English, for that matter. So you can see how some words, well, even some religious texts, and I say religious texts because maybe they were written in the heart and translated in the mind. No, don't say that, right? I don't know. Oh, and then what's more interesting is then if you have children translating them, and they really don't know what they're saying. You know, I don't know. I guess you'll never know either. It's hard to say what's in the heart when somebody's writing. And they don't even have to use the right, I don't know. I don't know. Makes you wonder, though, what happens when you take somebody's words and translate them without the heart in mind. It's tricky. I know. Very tricky. And then you leave a lot up to guessing. I guess that's what the court's going to have to do. About my daughters, they're going to have to guess if what was written about me was real. Or if it came from the heart, or if it came from objective, clinical biased opinions. Interesting, huh? And of course, Katie Ross had said once, well, Stephen, you're the most written about person on this planet, or man on this planet. And I was like, oh, really? Interesting. Written about and then what? Taken out of context. It's hard to say what the heart was feeling at the time. None would know that. Not that I'm trying to deliberately sidetrack the issue. Or say how unfair it is for somebody to write in a language that they don't know and then try to make people guess what they were thinking in their heart when they were writing it. Spanish is pretty good that way. I used to do it all the time. Most of it came from my heart. Interesting, though. Something to think about. I guess that's why it's nice to be nice to people with, you know, who don't speak your language or who can't always translate for themselves. I guess I've always been that way. And the tricky thing about Spanish, well, there's a couple tricky things about Spanish. Some things can mean more than one thing. You know, right? That's not fair. I never said it was easy. Much. Some of the other languages that I studied were more literal, and some verbs fell at the end. Not like this little gato here. Not that that's how you say it. I know my hair, right? I just got up. And I like reflexive verbs. They're kind of powerful in a way. Well, because they mean to do something unto yourself. Sometimes I like to just add reflexive endings to verbs just to see. That's not mean. That's just me taking poetic license with a language. And what's nice about poetry is that sometimes some people get it and sometimes people don't. Sometimes people think that you're writing about them. Maybe you're writing about yourself. Where does poetry come from, anyways? Where do words come from? Where does that inner dialogue come from? And then who gets to be the judge of that? What's artistic expression of inner fears and inner thoughts and inner, inner battles that you, well, for myself, I had inner battles that I was fighting all the time. I've said that I've got a million things going on up here all the time. And so it's interesting. And then take that into account. If you ever wonder what would happen if your own words, everyone out there, everybody, if your own words would come back one day to haunt you, the rest of you, or me, and if I took them to mean something different and then applied them to your life, what would happen to your life? Maybe I'll do that today. Maybe I'll look at some stuff online and then just say, I'm going to apply that to your life. And I'm going to take it to mean what I want it to mean. That wouldn't be fair, would it? I could even translate them, foreign language using a program and then have it totally taken out of context. Or translate it into one language and then retranslate it and then translate it again and again until I got a version that I liked better. How does that sound? And then apply it to your life and say, wow. And remember what I said about memory not being a stagnant thing, but evolving over time so that say you've read something in this time, and then you learn something, and then you learn some more, and then that meaning of what you read before changes because you applied this knowledge back to it, and you're like, oh, I can see a different kind of beauty in that. And then you learn some more, and then you look back at this, and you say, oh, wow, maybe I need to look back again. And you look at it, and you're like, oh, now that makes more sense. And then you learn some more, and more. And then you look at this whole picture, and you say, let me go back and read that. Maybe what I thought was this, and then it changed to this, and then I've got to look at a whole another aspect of that, including what I've learned in my life and how I apply that to that whole first initial reading. It's interesting. It's interesting because that changes. And it might change again when you're older. Because as you develop, you apply those things in your life that mean something, and then that makes old knowledge change. And what does change bring? New development, new understanding. And I think that's what's hard about it sometimes for some people and some others, that they get stuck in constant ways of thinking. I see new things every day. Like, I look at the trees and I think, oh, leaves of gold, or the autumn leaves are falling, or, or I think about how do trees get energy in the winter? You think about this, the leaves being solar collectors of energy during the spring and the summer, and even sometimes into the fall. How do they get their energy? Is it stored energy? Well, we know that the snow, you know, insulates the ground, cares for the roots. And snow is a good insulator. Some people know that it's a good insulator. I don't know. Back to language, because that was sidebar. So, it's interesting how context can be whatever it means. And it's not always judged on a global perspective, because each individual is responsible for their own interpretation, to enter that into their heart and then find some meaning. And then I always liked to talk to other people about it. Well, what did you think about that? Sometimes I didn't do that because I was too busy internalizing it, and sometimes over and over and over again, until it made sense. Or until I could take a piece and hold on to it and say, okay, let's look at it from this angle, and then from this angle, and then over here, and say, now let's get at the heart of it, in the middle of it, and see how those pieces go all over the place, and then see where that brings you. It's not always easy. It isn't. And some would say, well, get down here, get your head out of the clouds. And I'm like, well, Oh, I told you about this ring. Well, no one knew, but it was my grandfather's birthday yesterday. Philip Roland Lindquist. So, yeah, I can see that now. Anyways, it's a simple piece of string with a knot in it and 3 loops. It reminded me of a Trinity ring once, but I didn't make it for that reason. I made it for another reason. I won't say what it is. And I was wearing it on this hand, and I moved it to this hand because, well, there was a reason. Well, sometimes when I won't tell you. I won't tell you. It was a long time ago. So if you think about that again, so take a word like dreams and look at dreams, just the word. I know, Brad, I can see that in there too. I don't want that for anybody, but that's in there. Now, ask somebody next to you, what are dreams? What do they mean to you? It might be different. So, some people have this general idea about what dreams mean. And I think that's like the definition in a dictionary. But dreams mean some things to some people because they've had bad dreams in the past, or good dreams, or lucid dreams. And lucid dreams, I used to have tactile dreams all the time. So when I thought people were there in my dreams, or I was reaching for something, or I was doing something, or I could smell in my dreams. And it's not always, I mean, it's strange. Those were my favorite kind of dreams to have. I mean, not, and now those are dreams when you're asleep. And so, see how I'm talking about dreams being like that? And now dreams mean like future goals for other people, or aspirations, or other things. Most of my dreams related to inward discovery. I mean, I've had dreams like about, I've seen the futures of possibilities. And those are different types of dreams. Those are dreams about what can be or what could be. See, even those tenses are weird, aren't they? I don't know. It's interesting to think about. Even family members have different understanding of what a dream means to them. Some people think of dreams as really far away, or that only happen when you're asleep. I don't look at dreams like that. Or some people say that expression, in your dreams, like, yeah, right. And I like people's dreams. I like hearing about, wow, interesting. Like, I don't know. It's like well, I didn't tell you that dream that I had, but you so sagacious, Solomon. You know what came of it is. I mean, I would challenge you to think about that and to ask each other, what is a dream? What do I mean by it when I say dream? There's that in there too. Yeah. See how just one word can mean totally different things to any number of people. So interesting, isn't it? It makes you kind of second guess some things. And not that that's a bad thing. It isn't. It's pretty healthy. It's healthy to think, well, outside the box, and then look at your initial idea and then see all these influences around it and say, what was at the core of that? Which core is heart? And then you think, where are these influencing? How are they changing my ideas about my dream? Or are they? Or are they just pieces around this central dream? I don't know. For me, I do that. I kind of am like, okay, so what's my sphere of influence? And then where, or can I make the sphere bigger and then pull those influences in? And then be like, I can manage all those influences within my core belief or my heart belief or my dream. And maybe look at what, maybe look at some other languages and see what the words for dreams are in other languages. Wouldn't that be fun for kids in school to like take 20 languages and look at the words, the word dream or dreams? I don't know. And it's not like you have to do it every day, but just look at that idea of either are they similar? Are there things in, are there roots in there? Are there key components that you can see? I know that I can. Not in all languages, but in some. I don't know. It would be fun. Children have a beautiful eye for pointing out things in language. They learn so quick language. And I suppose it's adaptive to their needs, so they're able to change it. It's probably how the progression of language changed over time. Many times that happens with language. It's the youth that changes language. They shorten it, or they make it, they cut out redundancies in language because they see it like as unnecessary. I mean, we talked about some of those old formal verb tenses. Well, we haven't talked about that, but they do, the old formal verb tenses, a lot of countries did away with that because they wanted people to feel more comfortable and feel more like a family instead of being, you know, they were. They considered people family. And of course, you know, I consider everybody family. Even nature. The other thing you might want to look at is some languages are sing-songy, which I love. And some languages are soft, and some are really guttural. And some sound, well, some sound like nature. was going to go on, but English is sometimes, well, everybody learned English pretty much everywhere. Then there's other languages, sign language, well, and then body language, facial recognition, voice recognition. Well, and then you get into the frequencies and harmonies and light. And it's a weird lesson, right? Just now, if you remember what I said at the beginning about how unfair it is to use language as a tool to exclude one person. Even kitty language. I know. I practice. I keep saying, no, just say milk. But then I kind of know when he's saying it. He looks at me with those eyes. There's a funny story behind that too. I just won't say it because it's too funny. I guess I did used to practice talking to the cats, yelling at them. So what I was saying in the beginning is about interpreting other people's words. I'm going to challenge the court to do that. I'm going to say, who was I talking about? Who was I talking about? Maybe it was me, myself, and I. Or you. Or them. Or some other being that might have heard my words. Or was I reaching back into the past in my mind? I guess they won't either. Maybe they'll ask me, who were you talking about? And I'll say, I object. You know, on the grounds it may incriminate. You know, who do I implicate in that? Oh. It could be a lot of people. Or some others. And then they said, who do you want to call for a witness? How about all the dead souls of the known universe? Not that that would be, I mean, not that they will show up, you know. I can see them already. So, no, that was a sidebar too. And see how I used humor in there? So, anyways, it is interesting though, because at times people, well, maybe I burned that book on purpose. There was stuff in there. There was beautiful stuff in there. I still think your mother has copies. I might look again and, like, I thought I had I thought I had typed some of it out at one time. Probably trying to save it before I destroyed it. I still haven't, well, Fran and Nadine never called me back or emailed me back. I was trying to see if they would knew any way to aid me in my, you know, mind search. I only got as far as turning the pages and reading and seeing the images. See, there's another interesting thing for you to think about. What kind of learners are you? Are you visual learners? I mean, with words and stuff. Or when you look at a word, do you see the word or do you see the image? Interesting thought, too, right? I had once said, if we didn't have a word for something, we wouldn't have an image for it. So take it, for instance, this. This is a deck of cards. Now, what if it wasn't a deck of cards? But you know that they're cards. What if it was, I don't know, pick a language and then, what if it was something else? What if it was a fan? Or a bridge? Here, hold it. Or what if it was this? What if it was a card house? What if it was all of those things? I don't know. I'm leaving the joke. Come on, Joker. Come on, Joker. Interesting to think about, though, because if you didn't know what these were, or if it was the first time you had ever seen these, what would you think? Would you be like, oh my god, what is that? What is that? Now, imagine, I mean, just do this in your own minds. Imagine finding something that's never been found before. Right? Can you think of anything that's never been found before? That's challenging, isn't it? Oh. Well, you'd have to give it a name. and then, and then you know what you'd have to do? Well, you'd have to build that word off of things that you already knew. I tried to imagine a couple of things that had never been named before. It's hard. It's not easy. But, it's possible. And that's what's nice about that's what's nice about language too. And I like that, like I said before, I like the reflexive verbs. Like to wake oneself up or to get up. And it means different things. To rise oneself, to wake up, to get up. And sometimes, like, I do that with to dream oneself, or to see oneself. or to be oneself. So you take a verb and then you put a reflexive meaning to it. I don't know, it's interesting. And some languages, well, cut that out. I mean, not. Some languages take the reflexive meaning of it out of it because they think it's redundant. But there's a beauty in that old to do unto oneself, or to make it, to dream yourself, or to see yourself in beauty and in nature and then in the forces that nature has, which is great beauty and great destruction, which both are beautiful. I don't know. Well, if I was in school today, I would be doing that exercise. Excuse me. I'd be doing that exercise about looking at other words in different languages and thinking, huh, some of these look like the same words, or I can find similarities in them if I just mix them all up. Or, I don't know. Or maybe you don't even have to mix them up, you can just see. And what's really good then is to take that word and then ask somebody that's actually from that place, what does that mean to you? It's not always easy to, well, sometimes when you're translating other languages, it's not always easy to get the full meaning of what they were saying. And I suppose that's kind of like translation error and interpretation error. And so then that question again comes back to, who's the fault? Is it the person writing, or is it the interpreter, the self-reading? And that's tricky business. It is. Because there's a difference between writing from the heart and reading from the mind, and reading from the heart. And those things, I mean, granted, yes, there's, when you think about like clinical writing, I mean, that is a lot of mind writing and reading. You just, yep, yep. Well, when you're letting stuff come from the heart, and then it's interpreted on a clinical level, there's not a lot of, it doesn't work. Because no one can say what you were feeling at that time. Well, then some say, well, why would somebody write it then? Well, writing is an outward expression of a moment in time. And it doesn't have to mean what the other person meant it or took it to mean. And freedom of expression in writing goes back, well, a long time. Even to, pictographs and or whatever, even those are like paintings and stuff. That's art. You know, we know what happens when people ban art and beauty and self-expression. Not good things. Yeah, silence pretty much. I don't know who would want that. Who would want that? I'm gonna play this song. They wouldn't want it. I love this song. Um. So, and even you know, I've never been a big fan of swear words, and I've been using them lately. And yes, they do have a place. And Steven Pinker, I mean, when I watched him on YouTube, he was funny. He was one of my people I like to listen to. And it's just interesting when you think about it, where they come from, those words. You know, I mean, maybe you want to do some study on that yourselves and look up where the origins of certain words come from, and then think, I didn't know that. And think, oh, maybe am I going to use it anymore? Or maybe now am I going to go back to that ancient text and use the original meaning of it? And then really confuse people. I don't know. See, now it's interesting. And I told you before, I had one time took some words and translated them from English into another language, and then retranslated it, and retranslated it, and retranslated it, and retranslated it. And do you see now how that changes? I don't know. And it wasn't like I was doing that on purpose to be mean. It's just, I wasn't. I was making a point. When others are disrespectful, well, like I have felt I've been disrespected, then I feel obligated to make points to get the point across. I just want it to be known, you know, that yes, I can take a joke more than the rest. I can also, you know, spin some tales or yarns or stories. And then it was so funny. Avita. And then ask this question. Ask this question. He's like, I'm crazy. What did I mean when I said certain things? What was I saying? So I'd ask that. You tell me what I meant when I wrote that. And maybe I meant something different. And then who's to blame? The reader, or the writer, or the publisher, or the spying eyes. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have to answer that. Oh, I'm gonna ask the judge when I'm in court. I'm gonna be like, well, how do you know that that person writing that stuff about Stephen that day wasn't under stress themselves in their own personal lives? You know? maybe that influenced their writing, or maybe family interference influenced that writing. You know? And then he'll have to say, I don't know. And then I'll say, so you don't know. So you don't know if any of that's true or the truth. And he'll probably say, and then I'll ask Tara, was Stephen writing about you? And she'll go, I don't know. I thought he was. And I'll say, are you for sure? And then she'll have to say, I thought it was. Because I'm insecure. And I only care about the outward appearance. And I'll say, did you ever take anything Stephen said at heart? Did you ever care about his inner thinking and thoughts? And she'll say, I wasn't really worried about that. And I'll say, so you basically are saying that you just took things on surface value. Not even surface value, just, you know. And I'll be like, well, Tara, what are you going to do with our daughters if you can't even look into your own heart? And speak from your heart and not from your parents' mouth. Yeah. That's the beauty, too, about, and, I encouraged her to go to school. I actually told her I would help her at one time. She asked, and I was like, well, I would help you. Who does that? I know, right? After all she did, I was like, well, I'll help you go to school. She wanted to know about nursing school, and this is another sidetrack, but it's just interesting to bring it up. Oh, yeah. And then, well, I still challenge them. I hope that her soul returns to her physical body, too. I need that to happen. Chrissy said that she was going to need you, Stephen. I said, I will need her in the future, too. Girls aren't easy to take care of. You know? And I didn't want to be one of those dads that they came running to me saying, save me, save me. We don't want to live with her. And I'd be like, well, So, it's strange. I know there's parents out there that do that, they get divorced or they separate, and one parent it doesn't talk to the other one, and then the kids don't like that parent anymore, and so they run to the other one, and then the other one's like, oh yes, I love you so much more. That's the easy way out. It's not always good for the kids, because the kids sometimes then start hating them, and then where do they feel like they can go? It's a lot better to have both parents speaking from their heart, understanding that they're not the ones in need. It's their children. And I've said that from the beginning. I never wanted to go to court. And she forced my hand. Maybe this whole time has been me explaining that to her. Explaining to her that she's doing this for her, and she's not doing it for Sabea and Mia. She's doing it to meet her own, to feel secure in her own insecurities. And that one day is going to hurt Sabea and Mia more than anything in the world. And the court's going to do that too. We look at, like, take a word like children and look that up in different languages and see what you find. Or what family means. Or love. Sometimes love means armor. And it can be tough love. And it can hold family close and shield them from danger. Animals know that. You know? So, I don't know. I challenge all of you. Oh, I challenge myself too. You know, I dare, it's a love dare, I guess, to look at those words like love in different languages and see what they mean. I don't know. I love you all.